Welcome to the course on Mind Mastery, and this is the introductory course, lesson 1, and today we're going to have a look at understanding the mind and beginning to train the mind. What is mind? Mind is everything you think and everything you feel. So when we're talking about training the mind, we're talking about working with feelings and thoughts and all the processes of thought and how to understand that and be with that. Untrained minds, when they move rampantly through beliefs and through thoughts, they cause suffering, disease, difficult relationships, all sorts of complex conditions in life. A lot of disease is caused by the way our mind, in very difficult ways, moves through the beliefs that we hold. And we'll have a look at beliefs. Everybody's heard of placebo. The opposite of placebo is nocebo. And nocebo literally means causing pain. And when our mind moves through difficult beliefs or complex thought processes, we end up in suffering and pain, and we can create diseases for ourselves. And we can create very, very difficult relationships. So what we're learning to do through training the mind is to work effectively with the process of mind to create goodness in our life, peace, joy, in our lives and in our relationships. So how do we work with the mind? First, we understand the mind. Second, we begin to train the mind. First, we understand the mind. Second, we begin to train the mind. Mind is simply what brains do. It's what brains and nervous systems do. Brains and nervous systems are aware, they think, they reflect, they feel. So working with all of this material, and in the introductory course and later on in the full Mind Mastery course, we're going to have a look at what this is like for us human beings and how we can be with that in a good way. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is the evolution of the human brain. Evolution of the human brain is simply to aid our survival and to enable us to reproduce. And as you can see, with 7 heading towards 8 billion human beings on the planet, we do that rather well. So the evolution of the human brain is simply to aid our survival and help us to reproduce. One of the first things to understand is that we're social animals. Social animals, like primates, and most mammals in fact, need to know where they are in terms of status, community relationships and pecking orders. And we human beings do that as well. And the mechanism for us in doing that is storytelling. Our brains make up stories about who we are in relationship to other people, in relationship to our community in the world. And we're constantly doing this storytelling. And this storytelling revolves around the deep feeling in us of me. Okay? So it's the me thing that holds, is the center of all this storytelling in our world. And this me has a vortex of memories, of feelings and stories that itself has the deep I feeling at its core. And this me thing has a territory of mine. So we are really an I, me, mind thing. Okay? And if we're going to understand the mind, we have to accept that first of all. I have this feeling of I, this deep core feeling of I. Yeah? I have the feelings and the stories of me, and I have this territory of mine. And each one of us is like this. We need to honor this as well. It's a beautiful thing. It's not about reducing it down, it's about understanding it. So there's nothing wrong with it. All our memories, all our stories are beautiful. It's part of who we are as well. But it's the fallibility of those stories and how we make them up when we understand the mind that allows us, enables us to begin to see through them and really understand mind. So that's where we're going next. We're going to have a look at how we make up the story of who we are and the stories that we tell about ourselves and about our world. We have 5 external senses, and these senses are all limited. We need to understand this. First of all, think about bees. You see, bees can see in ultraviolet. They see a very different world to the world we see. We can't see in ultraviolet, so they see things that we don't see. Snakes, and actually lots of other creatures, see in infrared. They see in heat patterns. So as they're moving through the darkness, they can see patterns of heat in the world around them, and again, that we don't see. Sharks can sense in electromagnetic patterns, so they get an electrical image that they see of the world, moving bodies in the ocean. And they can hone in on that. You know, squid communicate in colours, flashes of colour with each other. Dogs have hearing that is extremely acute, maybe even 40 times better than ours. Eagles can stay in the sky quite high and look down and see tiny little things. Their vision is so accurate, and we can't even go there. So many creatures see things that we don't see, that we can't perceive. And we have to understand that all our senses are just ways we interpret vibration. Everything really is vibration. Particles, waves, things that we take for granted as being solid are really just vibration. Quite fast vibration, but it's vibration nonetheless. So what our senses do is translate little channels of that vibration to try and make some sense of the world so that we can survive and reproduce. That's the basic biology of our senses. So these 5 channels to interpret the vibrational nature of the universe are all partial. They're all limited. They give us a fraction of the amount of information about how things really are. They give us enough information to survive. Then on top of that, it's the limits of what we actually pay attention to that we remember. So our memories are made up of partial information and what the tiny fraction of that we actually paid attention to. And we create a story around that which we call the past. And that's our memories. Not only that, but every time we remember those memories, we put them back into our memory banks, as it were, changed. We alter them. So everything that we consider the past and the stories about how we are is made out of that partial information. And it's that fact that it's so fallible that gives us access to be able to train the mind. It's a really important and beautiful thing to recognize that everything we think is true, made up of the stories of the past, is extremely fallible. Because then we don't have to believe in it in the same way. Okay? And when we don't believe in it in quite the same way, we don't have to grip on it and we don't have to fight for it. So it's the limits of what we pay attention to in the field of vibration that we remember. What do we pay attention to? Well, mostly we pay attention to what our parents and schools taught us to pay attention to. So one of the things we have to do when we're training the mind is to learn to pay attention differently. And part of the practices that we're going to look at to train the mind are a way of doing that. Most of our attentional patterns, like I say, we've been taught to do. So the bits we paid attention to, that we were taught to pay attention to, out of the information we got from the 5 partial sense fields, we then conjure up a story about that, and then we say it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Really? Every time we remember the memory, it changes as well. So we can't say that what we have in our heads as the story of who we are, or the story of what happened, is really the truth. It's not. It's a story. The next thing we do with our brains is to make up meanings. To survive into the future, we use our memories, what appears to have happened, and we correlate that with what appears to be happening now. This just means what we're paying attention to, of course. And we join the dots of our experience to make up a meaning. This and this and this means this. It means this about me, it means this about you, it means this about my world. So our brains, one of the things our human brains do is make up meanings. We make up stories and we make up meanings about the world. We're a meaning-making organism. That's what we do. From our meanings about how the universe works, which we've made up, we craft beliefs. And our beliefs are then consolidated into an operating system from which we don't have to really think about things. We don't have to reconsider information we're getting. So our beliefs are like consolidated meanings that we've turned into some kind of rigid way of seeing the world, unless we get really skillful with belief. And one of the things we're going to do is get skillful with belief. So that's partly how we do meanings. So beliefs are consolidated meanings that drive our perception, our actions, our relationships, our thoughts. We're going to do much more on this on the full Mind Mastery program, but that's a good place to begin, is to understand that beliefs are that simple. Our minds are biological phenomena that make up an I, me, mine feeling and an I, me, mine story, me and my world, which has limited, changeable memories, fallible stories, partial meanings crafted from the fragmentary information we derive from the world around us and what we paid attention to. And then we operate from the beliefs that we make up out of all of this process. And that becomes our personal operating system. Would you trust such a mechanism to tell you the truth? Of course not. No. So why do you?